Welcome to Motor City.
Tonight and all week, gang, we're in Detroit, all right? Detroit City, the 8th largest city in the U.S. And it's the murder capital of America, a town where the sound of the factory whistle has been replaced by the nightly sounds of gunfire and emergency vehicles screaming to the site of yet another teenage homicide. A city where over 300 teenagers are murdered every year, where the police confiscate an average of 60 guns a day, where you can buy an Uzi submachine gun on the street for $290. I know, we tried. We've come to Detroit to examine this situation and to see if there aren't any solutions to the vicious cycle of teenage drugs, guns, and death. And Detroit will solve it themselves. Join us. Let me, if you will, introduce our guests tonight at home base and at our loudmouths. We have at home base, I should say we have at loudmouth number 1, C. Vernon Mason, who is a famed attorney. At home base, we have with us General Laney, the Reverend Al Sharpton, I see Al's about as popular here as he is in Birmingham. And we have Professor John Flynn, and at loudmouth number 2, we have Vera Rucker. Let me start with General Laney, if you don't mind, sir. And General, give me a little bit of your background, will you please, sir?
I'm the executive director of the Motor City Sports.
You're the Director General of the Motor City.
Yeah, we teach people how to defend themselves.
All right. All people?
Yes.
You got a lot of white people you teach to do that too?
Some.
All right.
Mainly we teach women gun safety.
All right. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that, but you've said that the biggest problem facing blacks in Detroit, you didn't say anything about whites, is that they don't have enough, wait a second, man, cool it, zip it, that they don't have enough guns. Now, wait a second. Given the fact, all right, that Detroit is the murder capital of America and most of those killings are done with firearms, how in the hell...
First of all, we're not the murder capital anymore.
Huh?
We're not the murder capital anymore.
You're the teenage murder capital. General, you're the teenage murder capital.
Those teens whom we have had it's unfortunate that anyone has had to lose a child to violence. But a lot of those kids were not, shall we say, on the up and up. When you get out into this type of situation, when you're doing drugs and involved in drugs, that goes with the territory.
Getting killed.
That's right.
Oh, let me go to Vera Rucker. And listen, gang, you're going to get a shot at these loudmouths in a little while, all right? So let's go with our guests and hear what the hell they have to say. Vera Rucker, I want to talk to you because you've just heard General Laney argue that for more guns in the hands of, I guess, punks and teenage gangsters.
I said more guns. I said if the citizens cannot defend themselves. See, we can't depend on the police
Listen,
to protect
I'm like
us.
you. I believe every citizen should carry a gun.
But what I'm saying is we can't
Every
depend on the police.
But I've heard, General, I've heard statements made that the reason, and they've been given to you as the statements, credited to you, that the reason the black community should keep their guns is to keep the white communities from coming in and raping their women and taking their...
That's one of our problems.
Now, I don't...
That is one of our problems.
Wait a second. Now, let's cool it, man. But I don't see the babes and the guys from Grosse Pointe trying to sneak in.
Oh, no. All we got to do... We're right here on Woodward Avenue. And you can walk right out of here and go straight up Woodward Avenue.
1 block.
And you will find white men down here after black women. Because we have been taking their cars. The police have been taking their cars, and these guys are coming from the suburbs down into Detroit after the black prostitutes.
All right, but no. This is indeed something that's absolutely true. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, General, when you run a grocery store and you've got an apple for sale, someone's going to pick it up. Not necessarily Eve. All right?
All right, but the thing of it is, when you're in that grocery store, them few pennies that you make is all that you got.
Right.
See, you can't even get no insurance. Matter of fact, there's not a black-owned supermarket in Detroit. They've all been ran out of Detroit.
Let me go to Vera Rucker. Vera, let me come to you. Let's say that he hasn't said give them to punks and teenage gangsters, all right? But that every citizen should have them. Now, you're all too familiar with guns in the hands of Detroit punks. Tell me what happened on the night of August 17th to your daughter. And she was a teenager, too, wasn't she?
Well, first of all, I can't deal with this, the way we're going on here, because we're supposed to be grown-ups. And it seems that when I came down, it wasn't per se me debating General Laney or all of this. There
it's
are
not a debate, sweetheart.
okay,
Really
it is, Melody was killed August 17th, 1986. She was at a party. A group of kids came through. They was asked to leave, and they came back and shot through the crowd, and Melody was shot.
Melody was shot by a group of other kids.
Yes.
Were they white or black kids?
They were black kids.
They were black kids. She was shot with a shotgun, right?
Yes.
The kid that shot her with a shotgun. This was not a handgun, but this was a shotgun. Go ahead.
The point is, indeed, of course, we know that they all killed. John Flynn.
Yes, sir.
This is probably one of the greatest statisticians in the country. I don't always agree with his statistics, but here you are again. What percentage of this inner city violence is really racist in nature?
Well, you probably have each crime should be treated separately. Mm-hmm. And I think when you say racist, you're talking about interracial crime, black on white or white on black.
Well, let's face it. The reality is most crime is black on black. All right.
Yeah.
We hear all of the so-called wide-eyed press talking about the black crime on America. It's usually black on black. All right. And it's usually white on white.
There's an interesting thing that's developed in some of the large cities. For example, in the subway system in New York City, there are more whites against whom felony crimes are committed by blacks than blacks. And just to do an overall picture, just for a second. Yeah.
Repeat what you said.
There are more blacks who are victims. I mean, there are more whites who are victims of felony crime by blacks than there are blacks.
Where?
On the subway system in New York City.
That's because if you attack a black, it's a misdemeanor. If you attack a white, it's a felony.
Wait a second, Reverend. Wait a second. I don't recall Bernard Goetz even being charged with a misdemeanor. He was charged with a felony.
No, Bernard Goetz, I'm glad you raised that. Bernard Goetz was charged with nothing until people like C. Vernon Mason and William Kunstler and I went in and made them get a second grand jury and indict him. Bernard Getz was not
You love
charged
the grand
with
jury
anything.
there, Don.
No.
You love the grand
We
jury
went and
working
made him
against
go
the
get
white man.
another
You love the grand jury.
When we were going to protect the law, we asked that he be indicted. We didn't say we loved the grand jury.
Well, you
we
loved
made
them.
go get another.
You loved them enough to go work against a man who had been attacked by blacks.
No, we
but when
hated
you had
them
a
enough to
woman
go against
who was
the
allegedly
first
attacked by
grand jury,
whites,
they would not
you didn't want
indict
a
at
grand
all.
jury.
They would not indict at all, so we were not working with the
And what
grand
did the
jury.
jury
We were
do?
working against the grand jury.
And what did the jury do? It found him not guilty, right?
No, a grand jury indicted him.
A grand jury indicts, it does not convict.
That's what I just said. They indicted him.
But the real
You
jury.
just emphasized
but the
my
real
point.
jury, the real jury, of course.
He should have been rewarded with life in jail.
No, he shouldn't have.
He should have been rewarded with life in jail.
He should have been. We should have rearmed him.
Well, see, the problem I have, Mort, is if we are going to have a society where we're going to take guns and fight back, why take the easy way out and fight some punk in the project? Let's go to the suburbs, to the fat guys that bring the dope in here, and let's shoot them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Let's shoot them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
They don't want people in their neighborhood bombing their
numbers on interracial
They want to go to
Let's hear the numbers. Let's hear the numbers. Skip it, Al. I want to hear the
on
numbers.
interracial crime. A black in the United States, a black man, is over 15 times more likely.
Tell us where you're getting
I'll give you the source after I give the facts. For once
give
in the
the
history
source so we know
of your
the
life, you're going to listen
Give
to
the
some
source so
facts.
we know the facts.
A black is over 15 times more likely to murder a white than a white is to murder a black. A black is over 20 times more likely
According to who?
to rape a white woman than a white man is to rape a black woman.
Listen.
Here are the numbers.
Where did you get the stats
The
from?
Justice Department.
Of what?
The Justice Department.
Whose Justice Department?
The United States of America Justice Department.
That's totally inaccurate. The Justice
Seaburn and
Department,
Mason.
I know has
Let me hear from Seaburn and Mason. All right?
One is Mr. Flynn has never opened his mouth about Tawana Brawley. So I don't think you want to discuss rape or kidnapping.
I'd love to.
No, I don't think you want to discuss that case. But let me just say this, Mort. If we are going to be serious about this, Roy Ennis, at the time he was advocating on behalf of Bernard Getz, both of them went out and said, what we need is a Getz Ennis patrol in New York City. We need to arm 25,000 people. What we're talking
Blacks
about,
and whites.
they didn't necessarily
That's
break
right.
any of it down.
Well, when you got a
this-
Getz and an Ennis,
this
it's
is
black
the
and white.
basic point.
No, when you got Getz
We
and
are
Ennis, it's all
supposed to
No,
have,
it's not.
Mort, we
All
are
white
letting
and
the government off. We're supposed to have a federal and state governments in each state and a federal government. Bush just got elected. What we're basically saying is we don't even expect for them to protect us anymore. We don't even expect for the police department to do its job anymore. Let us just go out here and arm all of ourselves and we'll do it ourselves.
But
that is what is being said.
Vernon,
That
what's
is what is
happening?
being said.
What is happening is that the American people, black and white, are recognizing that the hands of the police have been cuffed in many cases.
No, they haven't been.
Oh, they've been cuffed
Not in
tremendously
terms of-
by
not
the
in terms
liberal
of- no,
politics
no.
of this country
Mort,
that says they can't defend
Mort,
people
we
anymore.
have represented too many people like Darrell Cabey in the Bernard Getz case.
Darrell Cabey
who
was a
shot.
sweet little kid, right?
Darrell Cabey was shot in
He
the
was
back.
scum.
He was not scum.
He
He
was
was not
scum.
scum. He was not scum. All right.
Wait a minute. Why would you call a boy shot in the back scum?
I'm talking about in the Getz case.
Why was he scum?
Because he was one of the guys who wanted to intimidate Getz into getting money
That's
from
not
him.
true.
According to the
That's not
case,
true, Martin.
Darrell Cabey was shot in the back. He didn't ask Bernard Getz anything.
When he
It's this
came
whole-
and ran,
It is this whole
when he
blanket
came,
indictment
when he
of
came,
young black kids
when he
that
came,
serve us.
I don't care
The
what's
only
white
scum-
or black.
The only scum in the Getz
I don't
case
care.
was Getz.
No,
That's the only scum. The only scum in the Getz case. You're wrong. You're wrong.
No,
You're wrong.
totally
You're wrong.
because you have blinders on.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. We'll be right back. Talk to him. Come on. Let me introduce the new player we have here. Judge Leonard Townsend is with us from the Michigan courts. Judge, you sit in judgment on Detroit's criminal code, all right? Is Detroit a city under siege by gun-toting teenage thugs?
I'd say without the slightest equivocation that Detroit is a city under siege and living in fear of bodily harm by teenagers, young people carrying weapons. No question about it.
There have been people who have demonstrated that perhaps what they need to do is have some tough action brought against teenagers. There are those among us nowadays who are saying you got the drug dealers hiring 13 and 14, 15-year-old kids to do their assassinations. And we know in this society in which we live, you can't do anything to a 13, 14, and 15-year-old kid. Isn't it about time we start thinking that you can?
Well, under the current state of the law in Michigan, our courts cannot handle juveniles until they are at least 15, and they have to be waived by the juvenile court. To get anyone any younger than that in an adult criminal court, there would have to be a change in the law. We can only deal with what the law says.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why hasn't the judicial system in Detroit been able to stamp out the epidemic of teenage violence and murder? And why aren't you looking these pimple-faced punks up?
Well, I can
I want to hear him.
I can tell you this. We have complaints about prison overcrowding, about there being too many people in prison. And the prison people are under orders from the federal courts to let people out because there are too many people in prison. The reason...
So why don't we let these people stay with the lawyers who want to defend them all the time?
That's absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, we don't elect federal judges. They dictate. They say, your prison system can only stand so much because if you put too many people in this cell, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Prison is for punishment. A prison is for punishment.
Yeah, well, we've gotten so much into the prison is for rehabilitation that we've forgotten the punishment element.
I agree. I think that the prison should be for punishment. It should be uncomfortable. It's not a country club.
Let us finish here, man.
I don't think that people should be sent to prison to take a vacation. They're not supposed to like it. They're not supposed to be comfortable. And the space that they're occupying, or the space that the courts have dictated that they have, that is more space than we give a recruit that goes into the Army or into the Marines. They have more rights. The prisoners have more rights than a person who is recruited into the army.
Judge, for just a minute, and our audience will hear this. Our guests at home will see this. I'd like to ask to run a tape, all right, that we have made a compilation of some of the teenage violence in this city this year. And may our audience hear at least the audio track of this tape if they can't see the video. Please roll it.
Hey, you just step out your door and somebody walk up to you, ask you, do you want to buy a gun?
The story told by 15-year-old Julius Jones may be the most incomprehensible of all of these tragic shootings. Julius says he got into a fist fight with another young teen in his neighborhood. He thought the fight was finished, but 1 month later, the other boy returned with a gun and shot him in the neck in cold blood.
I was just laying there. Then I asked this guy named Jimmy to lift up my left arm, because I kept trying. I couldn't lift it up. Then I was trying to move my legs when I was laying down. I told him I can't move. And I kept asking him, I'm going to live.
Wouldn't you be scared if somebody shot you with a gun?
Do you feel lucky to be here today?
Yeah.
Many are not so lucky. The rate of teenage shootings in Detroit is already outpacing last year's one-a-day figure. But statistics alone don't tell the story. Part of it is told by what the kids have to say, and now they are all saying to us, we had better listen.
Reverend Al Sharpton, your advice to teenagers is to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and rise above your circumstances. Yet the next moment, you're screaming for affirmative action or minority set-asides. Aren't you sending your usual mixed signals to America's black teenagers?
No, not at all. I'm not, first of all, calling for set-aside. I'm calling for people to realize that the problem of young people emanates out of this society. The judge talks about violent kids. I mean, it's strange to me because our problem home has been violent court scenes. I mean, I gave your producer today a tape where court officers violently on innocent people in a courtroom. And I challenge you to have the court officers on here and we'll talk about that. It's not just kids.
But let's challenge those court officers right now.
I challenge Dennis the Jerk Court, the head of the New York State Court Officers Union, to come on here and I'll bring evidence that they beat innocent women in a courtroom in New York on October 28th.
Right.
Now, coming into this tape that just played, we are trying to talk about these kids in a context that these kids just popped up. These kids are a result of a society that there used to be an expression of hate that hate produced. This is the hate that America produced. Somebody yelled out where their parents was probably working for your parents and never got paid. And nobody where these kids came from. You will not give them a job. You will not give them an education system that will train them. You will not give them anything. You throw them in the streets and they become candidates for hustlers and pimps because that's the only option.
The statement was just made by, unfortunately, a white man that it's the black leaders who are doing that.
That's right.
Now, why? It's just made by a white man that it's the black leaders who are fomenting this type of violence by not getting into a black neighborhood.
They have the power to do that. There are certain black leaders that are not.
They have the power in Detroit.
No, they have the power in Detroit to put people in jail, which I understand this judge does. They do not have the power in Detroit to stop whites in the suburbs from bringing drugs in.
Black community.
Where does drugs come from?
Black crime.
Where does the drugs come from?
Black crime is what I don't have to answer your question. Black crime, I can answer.
You can't answer.
You're thinking of New York. Detroit is
I'm talking about Detroit.
No, Detroit is different
Black
than New
people
York.
in Detroit don't bring the drugs into Detroit.
Black people in Detroit.
Do not bring the drugs into
It's
Detroit.
not about people.
Do not bring the drugs into
You're making an issue out of drugs. And drugs is not the whole issue. You have more ignorance than you have drugs.
But drugs.
Do you have the ignorance because of an educational system that's failed?
That's right.
An educational system that's failed not only the blacks, but the whites and the Hispanics also.
That's right.
But also blacks. I'm concerned with blacks.
Well, I'm concerned with Americans. We're all Americans, man. I'm concerned with that. I'm concerned with this man, with this man, with this man. And all of these people out there. Look at, is there anyone with enough guts, all right, to stand tough in the face of gang violence? Let's find out next. Let me introduce you, loudmouth number 2. We have Pastor Lee Earl, and we're going to come to you in just a second, Pastor, but our gentleman, Mr. Seaburn Mason here, had a comment to make, and you didn't get a chance to make that.
This is what I wanted to say. Number one, in 1984, this pamphlet, Saving the African American Child by the National Alliance of Black School Educators, was produced and compiled after years of research, Dr. Don Smith and others all over the country. This was sent to every single school board. It was sent to the president, sent to various representatives. Those persons basically took this report and discarded it. One of the reasons is basically this, and until America comes to grips with this, we're just talking about solutions. We can put people in jail for the next 40 years. We can do like Wilson Good did in Philadelphia and drop a bomb on folks and kill them. We can do all of that. But the basic point is basically this. Most of these folks who back here hollering and screaming, their parents and my parents and grandparents came from completely different backgrounds. Those were persons who are not willing today to even come to grips with the history. The history tells me that for 246 years, you want to know where the parents were? I can tell you where the great-grandparents were. They were in slavery. And we have never been paid for that. That has never been dealt with. Right now, Mort, we're dealing with it now. Let me deal with this. You are dealing with it right now. It does not matter whether you have Coleman Young in Detroit. Doesn't matter whether you have Wilson Good
Coleman
or
Young,
a racist
Coleman Young, incidentally, who didn't have the guts to come on this show.
No, he has the guts. That's not
no, he didn't. He didn't have the guts.
The point is, Coleman Young does not have the power to change the conditions that produce those 15-year-olds.
But what you're saying, you are telling me to go into a huge... Shut up!
They're our children. Just like
Vernon, you're right.
Our child.
You're right, it's our children. But don't hang the guilt of 246 years on me. I know I'm good.
Mort, that's not the point. I'm not addressing you that way. I'm saying basically this. All the people hollering and screaming, are they willing to stand up the way, as some of your daddies and mothers could do like your father did? Are they willing to do that? $20 million to a black college?
I think they would be.
No, that's not what they're talking about. That is not what they're talking about.
What they're talking about,
Vernon,
the messages, the message,
and they want to kill black folks.
Listen to me a second.
That's what we've been saying in New York.
The messages that are sent to the white community and the black community, all right, in this country, by our politicians, by our media, is to keep us apart. It creates a great industry of poverty, a great industry of racism. People are getting rich on that. None of these people are getting rich on it. I'm not. You're not. What we've got to do is cut through that crap with education. What we've got to do is stop making ourselves feel guilty for what our great-grandparents did and go in our own hearts. In our own hearts.
We must, in this country, deal with the legacy. We talk about the Holocaust. We had an American Holocaust right here on this soil.
And the Holocaust
has to be dealt with.
And the Holocaust is continuing.
It has to be dealt with. Flynn, all he wants to do is cite statistics. That's all he wants to do.
You know, the thing that I think that everyone always confuses is everybody says after having a 246-year advantage, so let's forget that, and let's run equal now. If you want to run even, then bring the line back and let's start together. Don't have a 246-year head start and then tell them all of us,
but how many years?
Way out ahead.
How many years do we do that?
That's years. You're not dealing with years. You're dealing with setting up a basis of justice. You're not talking about years. Right now, black people are prosecuted and whites are not for the same crime in the United States. Right now,
just not true. Just not true. Just not true.
Right, Bernadette.
Let me tell you.
Let
me go to Pastor. Zip it. I want to go to the pastor. Pastor, is the street corner crack sale the root cause of teenage violence, or are these stupid crackheads just slaves of somebody else's game?
I really didn't hear what you said in the first part.
Simply, is the street corner crack sale the root cause of teenage violence, or are these stupid crackheads just slaves of somebody else's game?
Well, I don't want to call them any names, but
any names? They're stupid if they're smoking crack, right? I mean, not very bright. They're not bright.
I don't believe that street corner sale of crack by itself is the cause of teenage violence.
All right, sir, what is it? What is it? What, in your opinion, what is the cause of teenage violence? And you know what disturbs me? Here we are in a city, a multiracial city, a great city, Detroit, 60% black, 40% white. I see one white man up here, one white man sitting here, who's quoting the most asinine statistics I've ever heard in my life. All right? And I'll speak to my producers.
Let's hear your numbers, smart ass.
What'd you say, pal?
Let's hear your numbers.
This is the same series. This is the, wait a second. This is the same skinny, all right, who said who says, wait a second, this is the guy, I'll show you how much he likes America. He wants to legalize crack because he knows that'll wipe out the black community. It's genocide. We'll be right back. Is there any help on the way? Wait and see.
We're at 31 UHF.
I want to introduce some of the gang we got with us. Boy, when I say gang, I'm talking about gang. I'm talking about David Brooks, who's with us. David, let me see the hand. There's David Brooks. You, I guess, the gangs we've heard about, and we've heard a lot about them tonight. You guys right here, gang members? All right, well, get up to those mics and tell us why the gangs, what do you do, how do you make a living, who do you kill, what are your initiations? What can you tell me about gangs? Who's the toughest ass here?
We ain't about that today. See, that was yesterday when we was about that tough. You know.
Now, what are you about today? Helping little old ladies across the street?
We don't help old ladies. We're trying to help ourselves today.
When you're trying to help yourself, does that mean you got to get in anyone else's face?
Nah.
Does it mean you blow someone away?
Nah.
Are you a member of a gang now? Isn't there an outfit called Boys Incorporated or something in this town?
It was an outfit called Boys Incorporated.
There's no such thing as Boys Incorporated.
No.
Okay, what do you guys do now? What, are you with a gang?
No, we ain't with no gang.
What gang were you with?
That's irrelevant what gang.
It's not irrelevant. What gang were you with?
That's irrelevant what gang we was with.
How long you been away from the gang?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years?
Yeah.
And you've been doing good stuff since?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of good stuff? Tell me.
Well, I work today.
Okay.
I'm in recovery today from all my past.
Okay.
See, I don't linger on that. When I got shot, I left all that alone.
All right, so what you telling me? That's good. Yeah, look at it. An audience applause. How about you?
I ain't gonna let now one of y'all push my button, but I'm in treatment.
In treatment?
You know, and I'm also
for drugs?
Today I'm trying to turn my fool life around and help others.
Okay.
Because I was one of them. I'm not. Early in my days, I was a fool. Right. But today I began to listen.
Can I ask you a question?
Anytime.
Do you know friends who are still members of gangs?
I know plenty of them.
Do you try and tell them to turn their lives around if you were a fool and that they're fools now?
That's why I come on this station right here.
Yeah.
So they can see me.
Are you in jeopardy? Are you in jeopardy now that they can see you? Are you in jeopardy? Could you be in trouble now that they can see you?
You say I can say anything I want to, right?
You bet I did.
I'm not worried about on this earth.
Okay.
The best thing that I'm worried about now, the best thing that I can be scared of now is that crack.
Crack, did that get you one?
Walk around 2 feet, they kiss my ass. Say that, big eye. They kiss my ass. Because I learned today that I got one life to live. I might be scared now to say what I got to say.
You say it, pal.
But I ain't too damn scared to walk back out this door and go where I got to go. If they got problem with that, you can take them and rub them in your chest or take that back to New York.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Amy Tavon, and I am the founder, executive director of an organization called KIND, Kids in Need of Direction. And I'll tell you, Mort, there's plenty of kids out there that need some direction after what I've been listening to here tonight. embarrassing.
What kind? Why do you point to the audience and say plenty of kids in need of direction?
Just
Because they
listening
didn't
to...
agree with everything?
Not because they didn't, because they are just downright rude. How can you have your guests heard if they're constantly yelling out there? And these people are coming up here trying to talk.
You're talking, Amy, about a large segment of America when you say they're rude. You're talking about a large segment of America.
I see out here a lot
that's
of
never
racists
been
out
listened
there
to
that make me
before.
sick to be a part of
You see
their
racism
race.
out
Yes,
there?
I do.
You see racism?
Yes, I certainly do.
You can see racism
everywhere, and
everywhere.
it certainly is right over here, and it's coming out. And that's
You don't
one of the
see-
things that our agency is working on, is to try and improve race relations.
All right, and I think that's important. But I think racism oftentimes starts in the media.
It starts
in the media.
Right here, right
in the
now.
media.
Sure
all right?
does.
That's where it
And
starts.
it also
like that.
starts in the
Who
home
are these
as well.
kids here? Come on, gorgeous.
Hi, my name is Carla Thomas.
Carl, I love your songs. I used to listen to you all the time.
Really?
And I love your daddy Rufus. Huh? Go ahead, Carl. Tell me what are you up to?
Well, I joined KIND a couple of months ago.
Why?
Because I had some personal problems concerning the law. And I'm working myself out right now, and I'm finding out that it took us so many years to get education, and we wasting it. You know, the kids are wasting it. I'm getting all the education I can.
Yeah.
All the education.
Now, let me ask you something. Now, let me ask you something, all right? You got nothing but nodding heads up here. But I'm going to ask you, how come you're white and you're not black and you're helping these kids?
Because I care, and I'm part of the human race.
All right.
And you...
In other words, these are your racists
And
who
not
are
just
applauding?
that either, pardon
Are
me.
these your racists you hear applauding? They agree with you.
Not
you
all
see,
of them
all
did.
of us. How many people here hate whites? Let me hear you.
Oh, that's...
All right. All right. How many people here hate blacks? Let me hear you. And have some guts if you do.
They sure are chicken
You
because of what
don't-
we've been listening
They're
to.
not chicken. What's happening is the accusations are being made left and right,
please,
blacks and whites,
please.
that there's racism, all right?
There's racism everywhere,
the racism
Mort.
is
It's
because
time
we
to
have
stop.
people screaming that the racism exists.
Well, I came here to talk about our organization and tell you what we're doing with
Well, I
KIND.
heard about your organization. She told it very well,
Very
all right?
good, thank you.
I tell you what, I want our audience to speak next. All of the people in the audience, stay there. All right, pal. Let me start with the audience. Start with this gentleman first. Go ahead.
Gibbs, and I've been going to KIND for 2 months. The reason I'm going, I have some problems myself. Since I've been going to KIND, I have solved them. And if it wasn't for KIND, I wouldn't be out here.
Now, you solved those problems completely?
Yeah.
Can you stay off the things and stay away from the people
Yes,
who
I
got you in
can.
those problems?
Yes.
And what are you doing to help other people now that you've been helped?
I can help other people out.
How?
If they step up. And,
They got to step up?
Yep. They got to step
You
up
know,
and be counted.
why do we always have to wait for people to step up? Why can't we step down? and
We
give
ain't
our
gotta
hand and
wait.
Lift them up, pal.
We ain't got to do all that.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, my name is Ron, and I'm from Detroit, right here in the inner city, okay? And I come on behalf of all us Detroiters, okay? And what I'm saying, okay, as far as the bias and everything, I know it's been misleading for us young black people, and all, you know, I'm not just speaking for the black people, I'm speaking for everybody. And all I can say is just let's stop the violence. Let's stop all the drugs. Stop the drugs.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
I think what people have to realize is as people applaud people that have reformed their lives, had they adopted the philosophy of shooting everybody, these kids wouldn't have lived long enough to have reformed themselves.
No one wants
right out of this ghetto in Detroit,
anyone to shoot
one of the
everybody.
greatest people to reform themselves.
No one wants anybody to shoot anybody.
I mean, they've been great
I
programs.
sure as hell want my gun. Go ahead.
My question goes to the guy in the middle. How can you presume to come to Detroit City and talk about racism when in New York City you contribute to it?
Well, How do we contribute to racism? Before you clap for yourself, how do we contribute to racism in New York? To fight for people that are killed or raped is a contribute to racism?
Because you lie about the numbers.
So answer the question.
What you're saying, no, it's not.
How do you interpret the contribution to racism?
From what I have read in the papers.
Well, I don't know what you read, but that's what we do. And in every major city, we've got the same problem because we've got one federal justice system that does not feel that our people have any rights.
Why don't you worry about the victim instead of worrying about whether the perpetrator is black or white?
We're talking about
Brawler was the victim. But was she a victim?
Yeah, it is. When you start separating people into black or white instead of worrying about them as
if
just
people won't go to jail because they're black or white, the separation was not made by me.
Right.
It was made by the system.
We're all Americans, and this is
We're not all Americans.
that way.
We're not all Americans. We're not all treated the same. We all should be.
You're damn right we're not all treated the same. What about the poor white guy? Okay, hey, what about the poor white guy? Whose father makes too much money and he has to pay cash for college? What about the college?
Trying to excuse
the black guy can get excuse me, I shouldn't say black. I should say black. I should say the underprivileged people that don't make a lot of money, can go to school on the government for free. Now, the so-called rich white guy whose daddy makes too much money, if my father told me I couldn't go to college, I couldn't go to college because he makes too much money. My father pays cash for my college.
What's too much money?
Huh?
What's too much money?
Well, that's not none of the business. It's just too much money.
Yeah, it is.
If you make more than, let's say...
If your daddy's making $100,000, he can afford to send you, right?
Well, can he afford to send me?
Well, but if your
Okay, wait, right now.
if your daddy's making $40,000,
Wait,
he's
I'm
still
out of-
making too.
hey,
Listen to me. If he's making $40,000, according to the government, he's still making too much, but he couldn't send you to college. And then other people can go to college, and you don't get the advantage. What you got to do is even things up in this country, man.
Exactly.
The poor guy, the middle class, which has been screwed, has got left for 40 years.
Hey, Mort, you got to get
Wait, we're coming back in just a second. Come on, go! Little time we've got left. You got 15 seconds, pal. Make it.
You want to stop teen violence? I'll tell you how to stop teen violence. There are 4 things that have to happen. I don't care if you're black, white, or green.
Quick, give it to me.
The court's got to get tougher. The parents got to get tougher. The school's got to get tougher. And hate mongers like you have got to shut your mouth and let people get on it.
Listen. Go ahead.
One real quick thing, Mort. Significant things that occurred on election day was not the election, but the fact that a signal was sent all over this world by Bill Cosby, who contributed $20 million to a black college. If we are serious, we can't, what this guy just said, that, get tough. What you're talking about is trying to repair a situation. And I'm not going to stop saying that. If it makes people uncomfortable, that's tough. But the fact of the matter is that we did not come over here on the Mayflower. We came over here as captives.
Sir, wait a second. If you came over on the Mayflower, you were a hooker or a thief. Is that any better than a slave? That's what came over the Mayflower.
People running the country now are the hookers and the thieves.
Couldn't
you talk about affirmative action.
Couldn't agree with you more, pal.
hell went to college on a set-aside affirmative action. I don't hear any of these people saying Dan Quayle is wrong.
Let me tell you, here's what the problem is. Try and remember the problem. We got a problem, man. The way you straighten that problem out is by not making excuses, by grabbing yourself by the ass, getting up, whether you're poor white, poor black, working together, and sit down. Wait a second, I want to tell you something. Cool. You know, it seems like every time you pick up the paper, you read about some poor slob getting his teeth knocked out, all right? By the same damn bad guys. We got some good news for you, gang. We're reporting it from Detroit. The people have had enough. They're fighting back, and I love it. Tonight, we're going to meet a Detroit man, all right? Who got tired of nobody doing a damn thing about the crack house in his block. So what did he do? Well, he burned the damn crack house to the ground. Let me tell you something else. Let me tell you about an 80-year-old man, America. An 80-year-old man right here in Detroit. He found two young punks in his garage. You know what Gramps Pittman did? He blew their ass away. Vigilante justice, Detroit style. Join me. Let me introduce the players in this ball game, baby, for your scorecards, all right? Home base, we have Perry Kent. He burned the damn crack house down. At home base, we have David Steingold. He's the hero's attorney. At the loudmouth, as usual, a member from the ACLU, let me introduce Alan Zeller. Let's give, in fairness to the ACLU, We don't even know where we stand on this issue. Let's give the ACLU a chance to prove that they're probably right with us. Alan, before I get into the body of the show, a story is broken right here in Detroit today, which I think a genuine pablum puker like yourself is going to appreciate. As I hope you heard in my opening, an 80-year-old man who shot at two punks robbing his house has now been arrested for murder. I think you'd probably protect him, wouldn't you?
Damn right, Victor.
You'd protect him, wouldn't you?
Would I what?
Protect the guy who shot these punks and he's being accused of murder?
Would I protect him? Would I defend him? Yes, I would. But I would also attack him just as I'm going to attack you for the simple reason. The English
You're going to attack me? Have I shot someone yet?
No.
Huh?
If
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, let him talk. Let him talk, man. I want to hear him.
The English used to cut off the hands of somebody who stole a loaf of bread. The Muslims will stone somebody who was an adulteress or an adulterer. What do we do if we don't have a country of laws? We don't have a country of laws, then we have anarchy and nobody can live anywhere. If the law says you can defend yourself, then damn well go out and defend yourself. But if the law says somebody is running away and they're running and then you kill them, you have decided they're guilty, you've decided what the punishment is, and you've decided you're going to do it.
Wait a second. Let me ask you this. Let me ask him. I see someone in my garage. I say, hey, what's going on in there? They turn and they start to run. Now, I'm not sure that they haven't come out of my house. All right? And wait a second. I'm not sure they haven't come out of my house. They may have raped my wife. They may have killed my kid. All right? I yell, stop. The son of a bitch doesn't stop, and I shoot him. Am I still guilty?
The answer is, if you find them in your house, you have every right to defend your house, but whatever means you can. If they're outside your house and they're running away and you have not seen them do anything wrong, you don't have the right to kill anybody.
So if they're in my garage, which is part of my house, I have the right to shoot.
Probably, depending upon the state of the law in this state.
Well, if the state of the law says you can't defend yourself and your family, and you can't get the police there in time, then you better defend yourself. And I don't mean just white people, baby. I mean black, white, orange, green, any damn American. Any of them. Now let me come to Perry. Okay, Perry. Now, you already know how the lawyer feels. Tell me about the events that occurred on Barlow Street in Detroit last fall. I want the nation to hear this story.
Well, last year we had a good neighborhood. It was all right. A couple people moved out because the house was getting run down.
No one moved in. No one moved in. Some crack dealers took over an abandoned house.
Started shooting it up.
What difference does that make?
Let me hear him explain his story. Sir, we'll have a loudmouth open for you. Go ahead,
Some
Perry.
crack dealers moved into the house.
Huh?
Some crack dealers moved into the
How
house.
did you know they were crack dealers?
Because there was a lot of gunplay, there was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of just all kinds of traffic coming in. There's a lot of gunplay.
Did the traffic come in this way and did it walk out this way?
They didn't have to go in the house. They were dealing in the streets, right out in front of everybody. Broad daylight.
How did you know what they were dealing? Did you try to buy some? Did you try to buy some?
Huh?
Did you try to buy some?
No.
Did you have anyone you knew who bought some?
No, we
Did
didn't.
you have anyone you spoke to who had bought some?
Well, they would come to us. They would ask us if we wanted to buy some.
Oh, they'd ask you if you wanted to buy some.
They would ask us.
Okay, so the new occupants of the house asked you.
They call me the mayor of Barlow.
Now, the girls, young girls, 12, 13 years old, will come on our block and sell a little bit of the trim to get some money to go to that house and buy some crack. I've seen it, and my neighbors did.
I mean, now I'm not going to a break. I want to talk to this guy here, David. Mr. Steingold, Perry Kent tells us a story that involves another person, and that person hasn't been named, Angelo Parisi, all right? Your clan. What are the charges filed against this guy, and what did the jury of his peers decide?
Both Angelo and Perry were charged with burning real property.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Zip it.
They were charged with arson.
Zip it, man. I want to hear the story or get your ass out.
They were both charged with arson. Barry Adler, my co-counsel, and I defended them, arguing that...
Okay, don't tell me the argument. What did the jury decide?
They said they were justified.
Justified, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Now tell me about the makeup. Tell me. I want to show you exactly how tough Detroit really is. What was that jury made up of?
It was mixed. There was black, there was white.
Black and white worked together, all right?
Everybody.
And decided everybody was going on. And that's what goes on. Now, was the burning down the crack house on Barlow Street vigilante justice? Well, as some people are saying, glorified cross burning. Stay with us. New player on your scorecard. Let me introduce Horace Sheffield, the 3rd Metro Detroit Anti-Crime Coalition. Horace, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
I guess, of course, you're going to applaud, I hope, the fact that Perry and his partner burnt down that crack house and kicked those punks out of the neighborhood, right?
I don't applaud them at all. In fact, I don't applaud them at all. I don't applaud them at all.
Why?
Because I think there's a few different elements here which have not been addressed. Number one, no one has spoken to the fact that the homeowner was a black woman, one of the few black homeowners on the block. The people who were in the house.
Was she living in the house?
She wasn't.
Was she renting? Wait a second.
Hey, can I finish? Can I finish before you ask your questions?
Go ahead.
And no one has addressed the fact that these were black people who were in the property.
Were they selling crack?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care what they were selling.
You don't care what they were selling?
Let me finish what I'm going to say. Number one, I do believe that it was racially motivated. Number two, I also believe that what they did was against the law.
Their jury did.
Against the law.
A jury of their peers
They
did.
were lucky. They were lucky. Everyone will not be as fortunate to sit here on the Mort Downey show. The rest of the folks may, in fact, wind up in the Wayne County Jail or Jackson prison.
Well, I would hope
don't
a white
take
man.
my chance.
I would hope a white man or a black man would have the guts to burn down a crack house.
It takes more guts to get out there and be involved in the community and assume some responsibility in a legal way to rid your neighborhood crack house.
What the hell good is a legal way?
I work every day.
Yeah?
I'm involved
How
with
many crack
communities
houses?
every day.
How many crack houses have
Many
you
of
closed
them.
down?
I haven't closed them down personally.
You haven't
but
closed
the city
any
of
down.
Detroit has.
There are 10,000 crack houses. They close 12 a day.
How do you know they close?
I know what the
Let me say
statistics
this.
are.
Let me say this. if what you feel this is justified, then I would be justified as a black man who's frustrated over my freedom to go to the White House and burn it down because black folks are in the poorhouse. You don't live in Detroit.
You're a racist.
You don't live in Detroit.
You're a racist.
You're a bigot.
You're a
bigot.
You're a
bigot. You're a bigot. You're a bigot.
You're hearing what a man says, all right, that it's a racially motivated thing. Wait a second. I'll get to you. You're hearing a guy tell me that burning down a crack house where they're selling crack to kids, black or white, and I don't give a damn what it is, when there's 10,000 crack houses in this town and only 12 of them are closed down a day, I would hope that the citizens would take the law into their hands because they have the right to be deputies themselves.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Now listen, in Long Island.
Now listen, in Long Island.
Don't burn down a house.
You don't know what you're talking about. Come back here again, and we'll come back in just a minute. I'll tell you what, this is Detroit. I'm Detroit. And the Detroit Police Officers Association do everything they can to help, man. But when they can't get there in time, if you're so wimpy you can't defend yourself, you can't make a citizen's arrest, then you have no right to freedom. Three ladies up here. What are your names? Please.
I'm Karen McAllister.
Karen?
Julie Johnson.
Judy?
Kip Phillips.
All right. These are the bowling vigilantes. Karen, tell me what happened to you not too long ago in the three ladies.
We were bowling one Monday night, and some guy was at the bar, and he walked right over and tried to steal a purse that was at our table.
All right.
And he picked up that purse and made a run for the door.
He did a boogaloo out.
Yep. And behind the door.
What'd you do?
I ran after him.
What'd you do?
I tackled him like a
What'd you
football.
do?
I helped him all.
You got the guy. Did you handcuff him?
No, we tackled him to the ground. We had him in a headlock, and we pulled him to the ground. These guys jumped out, and we were going to let him go.
Right in? All right. So you ladies defended yourself.
Yes. Right.
Did you have to kind of put the little tap on the guy to cool him?
Yeah,
Just a
he
little
struggled,
tap.
but we pinned him down. He wasn't going to go nowhere.
Did the police come?
No.
Police never came.
No, they did.
They did come.
Yeah.
And he was arrested.
Yes.
Am I right today that he was found guilty and he was convicted?
No.
He wasn't found guilty? He was found not guilty? Tell me what
There was a
happened.
preliminary,
Yeah.
and it got bumped up to the next highest court where he's supposed to plead guilty to larceny from a person.
Okay, larceny from the person.
Right.
You'd say these ladies did it right, Mr. Attorney?
I couldn't hear you, Mort.
Would you say these ladies did it right?
Did they say you right there? Absolutely.
They see a rat snot, grabbing their purse, running out.
They have a perfect right to chase him and capture him. Absolutely.
Capture him.
Absolutely.
Have to tap him a little bit. Yeah. All right. I'm
But
starting to
Mort,
like this guy.
what they don't have is decide what a crime is. You're talking about vigilante justice. This is response to a crime. Vigilante justice.
What do you
is
think
when-
the 80-year-old guy was doing?
Hey, this-
Responding to some kids who were mowing
All right,
his lawn?
there was a group of skinheads. A group of skinheads in Oregon who don't believe that there should be any blacks in Oregon, so they beat a guy to death. That's vigilante justice.
And that's wrong. That's wrong. I agree with you.
They decide what the crime is, and then they decide what the punishment is. One of your colleagues down in Arizona gets shot by a group of right-wing guys because they don't like liberals. That's vigilante
Denver, not Arizona.
Denver? That's liberante justice. That's justice.
That's not vigilante justice. That's murder.
That's murder.
That's murder.
That's right. And when people decide...
These ladies was condemned by a guy grabbing the purse.
Right.
Okay, we got
I agree with you.
If that was my wife, I'd have killed her.
Excuse me, I agree with you. But once you give
There's no
any...
reason for them ladies to go bowling, to enjoy themselves, and a dude comes in and snaps the purse. Where's these guys at? They're home watching the kids. So
Let me ask
I'm
you,
enjoying
in the
themselves.
neighborhood, I just...
Let
me ask you a question.
That probably didn't work.
In an earlier segment, when we unfortunately got a man who acted like a racist on, who accused me of being a bigot, all right, we heard that the neighborhood in which you live was all lily white.
They're full of I live next door. I live next door to the crack house.
All right, but
Two doors down.
what is the mix in that neighborhood? I mean, is it all white?
Black and white.
Black and white.
This is no racial problem. It was a crack house that moved in there, and the two guys, the young dudes, took care of it, burned it down, and the neighborhood is safe today.
Let me ask the lawyer here. You heard the argument that was made earlier. Mr. Steingold, you heard the argument that was made earlier by the unfortunate guest that we invited on this show. Was he talking facts in any way, shape, or form? Because if he was, I'm inviting him back.
There wasn't a grain of truth in anything he said. He obviously knows absolutely nothing about the case.
Let me introduce Michael Donahue, president of the Detroit Bar Association. Michael, do you commend these women not just for preventing a theft, but for apprehending the criminal and holding him until the police arrived?
I would think that you could commend them for what they did. They took action, as the gentleman from the ACLU said, in response to a criminal act that was perpetrated on them. The question is, when do you go too far? When do you cross the line of being unreasonable in the reaction that you have? And that's why we got courts. That's why we have trials.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what he's saying. In other words, you're saying you need to use unnecessary force unless you've got a crime. I mean, I walk in and I find you standing over my dead wife with a gun in your hand. You start to run. It's okay if I say stop. You don't if I blow your brains out, right?
Well, I don't know about blowing the brains out, but you want to stop the man if it looks like he's just committed a crime.
Okay.
But that's a fact question. Now, that's the essence of the whole problem you're dealing with. All these things are fact questions. They're gradations. They're all gray shades of gray. It isn't black and white. And that's what makes
We're
it so
living in
tough.
a society now where it's becoming increasingly difficult for a police force the size of the one in Detroit to protect all of the citizens. And this is understandable. You've got 5,000 police in this area. 3 shifts, that divides them up to approximately 1,600 people per shift. You've got 10,000 crack houses in this town. You got 12 arrests every day in closing down crack houses. You are never going to get ahead. And what are the judges doing to these people?
The judges, to the extent that the judges have bench trials, they're listening to the evidence and they're finding guilt where it's appropriate. And I don't think that there's any justifiable criticism against what the judges are doing. The juries are in most of these cases, because most of them are jury trials. And as we saw earlier when you were talking about this matter here, the jury came back with their decision. The system worked. I think that's one message you ought to try and get through. The system does work.
The system works. The system works if the criminal is apprehended. Let me just ask a question. Come on, pal.
First of all, this criminal justice system is not a criminal justice system. It's a criminal justice system against us, being a minority. And second of all, if you guys want to, wait a minute. And if you want to, you want justice, you better start with the number 1 crack house, the White House in this country. Because that is the number 1 crack house. You want justice?
Would it
top.
still be a crack house, sir, if Jesse Jackson were the president?
No, it would not be a crack house if Jesse
So
Jackson
it's only a crack house of a white man?
No, because over 100 of the Reagan administration men have been indicted for crimes.
How many of them have gone to prison, sir?
No, I mean them going to prison, but
Try
they have, but it's right, three. So
but what you got to understand, look, I agree with you. I agree with you. The justice system in this country sucks. All right, it sucks. But it's not only hurting black people. It's hurting poor whites. It's hurting the middle class of this country, which never has access to the power. So you're right.
You know what? Yeah, as you can see, I'm a black man. We got 10 crack houses on my block. They all run by black people. You from the ACLU ain't came nowhere near my neighborhood. Ain't broken my house. Ain't tired.
All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll come back again, and we'll be back right after these messages. Stay with us. Sit up. Give us a break for a second, man. He's big enough to apologize. I'm big enough to apologize. For our audience at home who doesn't know, during one of the segment breaks, we had a little nasty disagreement, and the gentleman left, all right? Now, if we can work it out, how come the slime balls can't work it out among themselves, too? So let's all work it out. Detroit, Horace, let me ask you some questions, all right? I've purposely written some. How many crack dealers are there in Detroit, and how many get busted?
Well, I certainly can't give you that kind of information. We know that the city of Detroit is second to the city of New York in terms of crack cocaine distribution.
What's your method to preventing crime from moving into your neighborhood?
Basically,
and what do these people do that was really so wrong, all right? I know you feel it was racially motivated.
Well, that's not the only reason. The other reason I was against it is because it's against the law. They took a chance. The jury found in their favor. All of us won't be as lucky as that.
All right, that's possible.
The other thing is that what we're doing is, let me finish. We're organizing what we call crack-wise communities, where we have people who involve block by block who are learning how to report crime to the police department so that they can expedite the closure of those crack houses. We believe the citizens have a responsibility in addressing this problem. The problem has been that when they do go to the police department, they say there's a crack house on my block. They don't know who comes and goes. They don't know any of the information that the police department needs. We're trying to assist people in learning how to report and the methods that they need to employ to do so.
Okay, so let me ask this gentleman. You're this gentleman's attorney. Right. You had some questions you wanted to ask. Go ahead and ask.
I sure did. You leveled some pretty serious accusations, and I don't think you know anything about
Put
the
that
facts.
I can't hear you.
Let me ask you a question. Were you at the trial?
Was I at the trial?
Were you at any part of the trial?
What difference does it make?
Answer the question.
What difference does it make?
Did you read any of the police reports?
I've read a lot of stuff, and I've
Did you read any of the police reports? Were you at trial? Wait a second.
You know what, Mort? That neighborhood would have been better served.
No.
Based on some of the information that I know about these gentlemen who participated, if they had moved off the block instead of burning down the block.
Why do they have to move out of the neighborhood?
I'm simply saying these gentlemen themselves engaged, some of them engaged in criminal activity.
Obviously not. The jury says no, they didn't.
I'm not talking about this isolated incident.
I'm
saying there's other folks.
Get up here and come over. Get up here and come over.
These people have been involved in other activities.
You accuse these gentlemen son of racism. You talk as though you know something about the case. I know something about the case. I know you weren't at trial. I know you didn't read any of the police reports. I know you didn't talk to
I didn't hang in Mississippi, but I know when they hang black folk, it's racist. So I didn't need to be
burn down a crack dealer, Horace, when you burn down a crack dealer, don't make that racist. Make it a crime if you want to. Don't make it racist.
Fact. Had it been white folks in that house in an all-white neighborhood, they may not have.
They should have burned them down. Burn them down.
This neighborhood was over half black, and the blacks on the neighborhood supported what happened. They were being victimized the same way the whites on the block were being victimized. This house was abandoned. These punks took over an abandoned house and decided to victimize this neighborhood.
And
you're trying to tell us
the neighborhood racially integrated.
It's insane.
And you're telling us that the legitimate law-abiding
I'm just saying that's one particular point. You have to put your hand in my face.
You're telling us that the legitimate law-abiding citizens of that neighborhood should pick up and move and turn.
No, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I said these gentlemen who have been involved in criminal activity themselves.
Let me hear the man.
These gentlemen here are not perfect angels. These gentlemen, this was not the first thing that they burned, my friend.
Did we burn something else?
But the point is, that's just one issue. The issue is it's illegal. Number two, if it's justifiable for them to employ those kinds of violent tactics to accomplish what they want, then why can't I do the same thing?
You can. If you live in a white neighborhood and the house next to you is a crack dealer, all right? And you took it upon yourself.
I don't have to resort
would
to
you be a
that.
racist? Would you be a racist?
I have been involved in eliminating crack houses from neighborhoods and have not had to personally burn anybody's house down, raid any home or anything else.
If you had kids on the street when there was
I have two kids. I have a grandmother, 96 years old, that lives 3 doors from the crack house. And it has been closed. You know why it's been closed? Because we organized the neighbors in the block, and we went to the people who were responsible.
Can I ask you one question?
Ask me anything you want.
Have you ever been on my block, Compilation?
Have I ever been on your block? I can't say that I've had the pleasure.
Well, then how can you argue with the lawyer?
You're welcome to come on.
And the gentleman sitting over there about the crack house that burned down 2 doors from me.
I can argue because I don't agree with what they did.
Nobody agreed what they did, but they had to do something.
Well, you just said you agree, but here's a gentleman that's with me. He doesn't agree either. Okay?
All right. I'll tell you what. I want the audience to tell me what's going on. We're going next. Let's go to the folks. Go ahead, pal.
Gotta say, I believe that if they screw with us, that is the crack people, the people that screw with the power of Detroit, we should take advantage of them before they get a chance to screw us up. We gotta stick strong. And the police, how often can you call the police? No.
You on drugs?
No.
Good for you. What would you do if you had a crack house? Would you report it? Report it to the police if you had one in your
Hey, well, if you call the police, what are they gonna do? They come in 4 hours. What about the 4 hours of time we gotta wait for them to help us up? We'll take care of them. We'll take advantage of them.
If you have a chance to get the police, always get the police. If there's life in danger,
You gotta take it, man. You gotta take their life before they take ours.
That has not been brought up here. They burn this crack house down. The people that I know in neighborhoods that operate crack houses, they're not afraid of police. So So how in God's name are you going to go?
So they better be scared of us if they ain't scared of the police. We'll get them. We'll get them. We'll get them.
No, I want the folks.
What you have now is you're destroying the criminal justice system and supporting it and replacing it with nothing. What you're going to have is what you had in Argentina, where people ride through the streets, decide what's right and wrong, and kill everybody they don't like.
That we don't want.
But what have you got
That
in
we
its
don't
place?
want.
You're recommending that people go out and
I'm
say, that's
recommending-
no damn good,
Don't put
burn
words
it
in my
down.
mouth.
You've been
Don't
putting
put words in my mouth.
What are you
pal.
recommending to take the
I
place of the
recommend-
criminal justice system?
I recommend, first of all, that the people make every attempt to get the police. And then I recommend if there's a life in danger, save that life.
Go
If
ahead.
unfortunately,
So far, you haven't said anything wrong, but so far, you're instigating all of these people to go out and kill.
I'm telling these people, protect your own life, all right? Protect your own life.
Was his
If
life
it's
in
not-
danger? He was in another house. How is
Maybe
his
it's-
life in danger?
Anyone who smokes crack, their life's in danger, pal. Ask Len Bias.
You forget one thing. We're all forgetting one thing. It's because of crazy Marxists like this guy right here that we have to deal with this at a city level. Because the people that you influence in our Congress do not go after the people that supply the coke and the crack. So we have to deal with it in the streets of our city.
Baloney, the death.
We're dealing with the streets of our city.
I'm in the same streets you are. And I have the same vote you have.
Yeah, the vote to get the prayer out of the schools is another thing.
What's that got to do with this?
Because the kids don't have anything. They can't make the morals. Because morals stems from
Of course you can.
Ethics stems from a belief. I work in a public school. Don't tell me what
I worked in a public school for 27 years.
And that's what's wrong with the public school.
No. The fact that you're the loudest doesn't make you the right.
I feel if a person commits a crime, then after that, they've lost their rights, and that person that they committed that crime against, if they're caught or after the process, they can do whatever measures they have to,
Within reason.
to take action back. If they've committed a crime, they lost that right.
I said, this is supposed to be about a problem that took place in Detroit. 99% of the folk in this audience don't live in Detroit. I like to invite them to my neighborhood, put them to work.
All the people who live in Detroit, stand up. Everyone who lives in Detroit. Huh? Looks like Detroit City to me, baby.
A question. I'd like to ask the gentleman in the yellow tie.
I live in East Detroit.
Did you try to get police involvement?
Did you try?
Yeah, because and how long did you try before you went through with it?
Weeks, days, everything. They always.
You're not doing your job.
Go ahead, pal. Go ahead.
Say one thing. I'm sick and tired. Every time.
Let me hear.
Every time something like this happens, is guys like him always want to make a racial issue out of it. That's a bunch of bull. It's not a racial issue. It's something that concerns black, white, Mexicans, Chinese, everybody. Americans. That's
got
right.
it, baby. I want to hear this man.
You ran out the deal. No, I didn't run out the deal. Boy, you say it's racist. No, it's not racist. Racism is a little silver. Bunch of bull, man. If it's not racial, tell him to ride out the Dearborn or ride out to some community where he's not wanted. All of
there's plenty of
racism been around forever. It's going to be around. That ain't got nothing to do with it. This was not a racial
what
issue.
I was trying to say. I'm just saying that was one aspect
We know
of the
there's
whole
racism.
argument.
We got to
Don't
stop
just
the
deal with it.
racism
Exactly.
by blaming everything on racism.
I don't blame everything.
We got to get the
I
whites who
don't
are
blame
racist. We
everything
got to get
on
the whites,
racism.
the whites who are
I don't
racist,
blame
and the
everything on
blacks who are racist.
We got to
Pick them
get
out.
all of
Get them.
it. Be locked indoors, pull their shades down to get up and go out and assume some responsibility for dealing with the problem. That's what they've got to do.
Okay, and we'll go with the audience again. Stage. Sir, let me hear from you. Let America hear from you.
I want to address something to the gentleman on the end there.
This one in yellow tie?
The one on the end with the striped tie.
You, sir.
He made a statement that the system is good, but the system is not good in Detroit. I stay on the east side of Detroit, near an area called Mack and Gray, and crack is being done all the time around there. And if the system is so great here in Detroit, why is the police officers, judges, and teachers getting crack selling or buying drugs in our city?
And it's happening in New York. It's happening in Los Angeles, all right? You want to get teed off of the system? Get teed off of the system that is allowing genocide through the use of crack, and it could be the biggest racists in the world are the crack dealers and the crack suppliers. Those are the racists.
The reason why I mentioned anti-exist is because if the city, the state, and the government is not causing, is damn sure not helping by not enforcing the laws. Solutions, it would be mainly three. Cut out parole. You kill somebody life without parole, not the death penalty. You gotta, I know you disagree with me on that. I have a friend serving life without parole. He say the only privilege they don't have is the woman. They wear gold ropes, chains, and everything, you know. And the last thing is these 13, 14, 15-year-old boys killing people. 13, a teenager. Let them be charged for what they do. They know what they are doing. They know.
I got to say, this isn't about race. It's about people being animals. It's not about black people. It's not about white people. All these people are just animals. Drugs don't know colors, man. Right. And they should be put in cages like animals.
Yeah, let me tell you something. There is no war on drugs going on. If there was a war on drugs going on, man, you'd level the fields in Colombia. You'd level them in Mexico. I mean, we're spending millions of bucks doing everything except fighting a real war. Go ahead, sir.
This guy says how good the system is and everything. I got a good story for you about the system. He says, let the system take care of himself. Well, I got a buddy that's a cop in the Detroit area. He tells me that he went to a fight that was at a crack house. He goes in there and starts checking IDs. Who's he find there? 2 area police officers. No, they were not there undercover. They were not there undercover because they said if they were, they would have known about it. And they weren't there undercover. They were there for their own self.
Crack houses, white folks from the suburbs to come to our city.
That was because they're selling it. That house was in a suburb.
I'm not disagreeing.
If the white folks from across 8 Mile wouldn't come over here and buy drugs, we should be cut down.
They don't come in the city for it.
But let me tell you, my
That's
friend.
a low blow against the Detroit police department.
You're gonna find bad police, bad priests,
TV talk
bad
show
rabbis
hosts in crack house.
You bet your life you do. You're gonna find. Would you name them on the show? I'd like to hear what they are.
I don't want to get sued.
Let me see this man. Come here, man. Come here. I want to see this man. Come here.
Yo, everybody's talking about racism. Anybody that lives in Detroit or Metro Detroit knows one of the biggest dope dealers in this city was white, and they nailed his ass. White boy Ricky Worship, and they nailed him. So everybody that's been talking about racism, nobody brought that up yet. If you want to talk about burning down crack houses, yeah, I burned down a black owned crack house. I burned down a white owned crack house. I burned down a Mexican house. Hey, what? And we did big killing our food. They came in here and told us get the police.
Get the police to help us. Let me see, man.
There's an issue right here. You know, I listen to this guy right when he gets up here. The first thing that he says, I mean, as far as I know, right now we live in America, don't we?
We better, pal.
And we have the freedom to live wherever we want, don't we?
We better.
And we employ the police to
Not if you're economically deprived.
all right, well, whoever financially capable. We employ the police through taxpayers' dollars to serve and protect the public, okay? Now, the first thing this guy says when there's a crack house
You want to fight crime, baby? Start paying your police a decent salary. Make a career out of it. Make a career out of it. That's what you need to do. I'll tell you. we're not talking about taking the law into our own hands here. But if the police and the paddler-puking judicial system can't protect us from every shrine ball that wants to rob, kill, and rape our citizens, then I just say, defend yourself. Kick out! Think about this for just a second. I'm beginning to think, as I travel this country, that I could set up shop in a convent, and some jerk would have a complaint about habits that were black and white. Here in Detroit the other day, a white woman I might add, placed an ad in the Detroit newspaper to sell her house. And in the ad it said, whites preferred. Come on, lady. I thought this was 88, not 48. Is anyone ever going to get it through their stupid, thick heads that we're not black Americans or white Americans? We're Americans! Tonight. Tonight I've invited a damn good friend of mine, Roy Innes, chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality, and a group of racists. Let's see if we can't get all of these people to understand that racism and hatred ain't making sense, pal. We're going to try and put it together again tonight. Join us, Detroit. You'll do it. All right. Let's go. Let's go. A lot of us know I've got my good friend Roy Innes here tonight, all right? And we know what happened before. We've heard all the garbage. It ain't gonna happen tonight, man, because Detroit's gonna prove we can put it all back together again. Now, I am so sick of people coming into Detroit, Chicago, Dallas, Miami, Baltimore, Los Angeles, and saying that they're racist and hating cities that can't work together. Detroit's going to prove to you tonight, gang, and to America, it can be done. introduce the players we got so far. Home base, Donald Obsinger, Breakthrough Incorporated. Home base, Reverend Holly, Operation Push. Loudmouth, General Laney, Handgun Advocate. Let's start with you, Donald. One of the focuses of your organization called Breakthrough is to stop the Black Power movement in Detroit. Now, why do you feel the necessity to keep Detroit's blacks from working in responsible positions?
Mort.
Let's hear the man first, all right?
Mort, can I state my view on something first before
Yes, sir.
I
Please
respond
do.
to that
Please
question?
speak up. Let's hear the man and please speak up.
Because in the first place, what you stated is the thrust of my organization, which I represent tonight.
He will.
It's not what you say.
All right.
It's not what you say.
What is the thrust of your organization? Let's hear the thrust.
The thrust of my organization's Breakthrough is the defense of this country against revolutionary attack by Marxist, socialist, and communist forces.
And who? All right. Nothing basically wrong with that idea. Let's find out who the Marxists, communists, whatever the hell you call them. Who are those people? Who are they? Let's hear the man, please. We're not going to learn diddly squat, pal, if we don't listen to the guy. Now let me hear.
Mort, in response to your question, my view is that the issue in this country is not one so much, even in Detroit, is not so much one of...
I didn't ask you that. I asked you to identify the Marxist, communist, whatever the hell they are. Tell me who they are. They must be here in Detroit, right? Are they here in Detroit?
Communist Party functionaries are in the city of Detroit.
And they're in Washington, and they're in a lot of other places.
Yes.
And we know that.
Yes.
In this city, are they primarily white or primarily black?
I don't think they're primarily anything.
Okay. All right. Now we're getting someplace. Reverend Holly, let me ask you, sir. You've seen the civil rights movement, and you've seen racism all your life. Do Mr. Lobsinger's remarks smack in any way of racism to you?
Well, what we
hidden or
what we really believe, what we really feel, of course, is that Mr. Lobsinger and others who basically advocate what they're talking about, that it's just a cover-up and basically saying that blacks in Detroit are communists and socialists and Marxists, which is not true at all. The only thing that we try to do in Detroit, and basically Black America, is trying to get equality. Just basically trying our best. You know?
I'm going to do something on this show. I'm going to do something on this show that I don't usually do. I'm going to preach for a minute. And my preachings are this. When you deny any element of society, especially in a capitalistic society, any element, be they blacks, whites, Hispanics, the lack of opportunity to get ahead, the denial of rights to make a good living, the denial to get all the things that you want and I want, when others are denied that, pal, communism looks pretty damn good, doesn't it?
Well, we're all agreed in what you just said.
What?
We're all agreed in what you just said.
Then what we've got to do is we've got to create that equal mobility upwards for everyone. Not a black man because he scores less than me gets the job. A black man who I know is as equally intelligent as I am gets that job.
I've got no problem with that.
All right. Let me go to General Laney. General Laney, may I hear from you, sir? One of Coleman Young's more controversial policies, I believe, was to oppose gun control for fear that Detroit citizens wouldn't be able to protect themselves. Now, who needs protection from what? And incidentally, I happen to be opposed to gun control too, but let me hear from you.
Well, we just had an article in the paper a couple of days ago where the white woman only wants to sell her house to whites. Each night our city is invaded by whites looking for black women.
what you are saying then, General Laney, is that a few horny white suburbanites who can't get any action from their frigid wives are coming down, picking up your black hookers.
What I'm saying is probably these kids' fathers are out there on Woodward Avenue. They go out there on Woodward Avenue, they'll probably find most of their fathers out there after the black women.
Well, at least, sir, they know who their fathers are, don't they?
No. They think they do.
Now, see, this is how racism gets back and forth. You make an irresponsible mark, I make an irresponsible mark. So when you say most of these kids, daddies are out getting nailed.
Probably some of these same kids' dads up there on Woodward Avenue. They'll probably be in court tomorrow.
You know, I got to tell you something, gang. You've seen him fight the Reverend Al Sharpton in New Jersey. You've seen him tangle with the skinheads in New York. He's my pal, and he fights racism in Detroit next. He's Roy Innes. Stand by. This issue isn't just about Detroit. This issue isn't just about Illinois or Chicago. This issue is about people, right? People who can get along one-on-one and usually do, but somehow we want to join together in little groups and go against each other. And that's what sucks. Roy Innes. Reverend Al Sharpton called you a bigot on my show. And here's what happened. Let me see the tape. Roll that tape.
Even after the shenanigans with him and the other
That's a lot of crap.
Now, look, brother, you have your time.
That's a lot of crap.
And I got
And I might add, Nazi skinheads on a Raldo show called you and Uncle Tom. And here's what happened there.
Uncle Tom here, sucking out trying to be a white.
Now, let me tell you. Hey, you got a kid. You got a kid. You got a kid.
All right? Now, I'm going to say something. Let's see if I get into your psyche, into your ear. All your life, as a young man growing up in this country and outside of this country and then into this country, you had to be putting up with being called a nigger. And then as you become finally in your mind and your heart, and you see what's going on in this country, and you see that all people can rise above that, all of a sudden you're called an Uncle Tom. You go through life not really having any race identity at all. Was that the way to fight racism on those two shows? Or is there another way?
Mort, the most important thing is for a man to have personal dignity. The greatest immorality is to acquiesce to intimidation from anybody. You know what's beautiful about all this? With all the problems we have had in America over the centuries and even recently over the last 3 or 4 decades, this country went through one hell of a revolution. We argued, we fought hard, but we didn't really kill each other like people do in Europe
in Asia, in Africa. We argued out, and like Americans under our Constitution, we came to an understanding. So much so that an action I took against a guy I considered to be a black racist, and the action I took against a guy who is a professed white racist, that we have the same and equal response from this American audience. The interesting thing is this. You notice the response from this audience, which is black and white, was just as positive to my action against Sharpton as against the skinheads.
Let me go. Let me ask Mr. Lobsinger. John Lobsinger. Roy Innes's organization. I've known it for many years. All right? Here's the Congress. Here's the Congress of Racial Equality. Please let me finish. Is the Congress of Racial Equality and its leader, Roy Innes, the type of organization you aim to stop with your group?
No. As a matter of fact, I have no, Martin, can I talk or no? If I
Let me
can't
go.
talk, there's no
Let
point
me
in
introduce the loudmouth number one, John Clary and Mary Kelly, the Dearborn White Area Resistance.
You know what your problem is, I'm gonna put you on notice right now, man.
Roy, I resent being on the program with them.
Problem is,
I resent being on the program with them. Whether you believe me or not.
you can't work for the benefit of your race. You cannot work.
That's a big repudiation. Let me ask Mary Kelly. Mary, first of all, other than looking like I met you over at Cheetahs the other day,
Roy, I wish you'd believe
I'm
me.
familiar with the hateful, racist, white Aryan resistance, but I was sorry to hear it has spread all the way to southern Michigan. What in the hell are you resisting?
I am not a hater, Mort. I love my race. I want to see the beautifulness of the white culture, which built this country, which our morals are based on, survive for my children's time.
Our morals are based on disliking other people. You said you love your race, right?
Yes.
What is your race?
My race is the white race.
What do you think about the human race, sweetheart?
The human race is a bunch of bull.
The human race is a bunch of bull.
Yeah, the white race, we stand up for our race because we're proud of who we are.
Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with saying white is beautiful. Nothing wrong with saying black is beautiful. No one's against that. You can stand up for your race. No one's opposed to
But
that.
how come every time a white person stands up for his race, he's labeled as a hate monger because he wants
I
to
don't
better
think
the
so.
white race?
I don't think so. I stand up for the white.
My race. And everybody here says, I hate. You don't know me. These people don't know me.
I know you. I know you. I know you. I know you. When you would revere a man like Adolf Hitler, when you would revere that, I know you are slime. You too bad. Just as bad. Why do you go like that? That's baloney. Why don't you go like that? Why don't you go like that?
We're fighting for the white race, man. Hitler never
Fight for America. Fight for America.
Hey, we fight for white America.
Fight for all of America.
Skinheads are doing it.
Fight for all of America.
We're taking our streets back away from all these minorities, away from all these jungle buddies.
Away from what?
The jungle buddies.
Then you are white. You are white.
you something. As we move into this segment, let me tell you, after listening to what's going on in here tonight, and listening to the guests, I can tell you, separate this guy, Donald Lobsinger, from these people. He is by no means the type of racist, all right? He is a guy who likes his white race. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that, all right? It's when you think the white race is the only existing race that means anything in the world, pal.
I never said that, Mort.
Huh?
I'll tell you, I do have respect for black people, black separatists like Louis Farrakhan, who love their race and their culture and their heritage, and they want to protect it, and they don't want to mix with the other races. If they are black and they do that, I got no problem with it.
No one's forcing any interracial marriages or anything. If they want to get married, marry. What would happen if your sister married a black man?
Then she wouldn't be my sister anymore.
Huh? She wouldn't be your sister anymore?
That's for you. That's from South Africa. That's where you should be.
There's your South African flag. The white flag.
South African flag.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't support apartheid like a bunch of the Jews that back Roy Ennis and organizations like his do. But I'll say one thing, Mort, and that's right, Israel has a lot of interest in South Africa.
Let me ask you, Roy. He says the Jewish organizations that back you. You familiar with Jewish organizations backing you? I am. Zip that. Hey, I want you to look at something.
Race traitors will be eliminated.
I'll tell you what's sick.
That's what's
I'll tell you what's sick. You're sick, baby mother. Your race and your culture.
Why don't you stand up? Why don't you stand up for the white race,
I
Mort?
stand up for the white race by my actions, man. And my actions say you're... You gentlemen, we're going to hear the guys have to say. To be on the other side of the coin, you think all white people are racist. All white people aren't like him, and all black people aren't like you.
He speaks out for the majority of white people.
He does not. How many whites does he speak out for? I'll decide what white men are like and what black men are like. And I ain't gonna love someone just because they're black or just because they're white. I'll love them because of their actions. I'll love them because of the way they help their neighbors. Let me come back up here. Zip your mouth. Nothing but... Don't throw anything. Don't throw anything. Just relax. We're going to go up here and talk to some people who make a little more sense, all right? Roy Ennis. What happens when you listen to this? What goes through your heart, your mind, your body? When I listen to this, I hear America speaking out there. That's irrelevant.
Let me tell you.
This is America. Let me ask you this. Honey, not only do you give the hands, but the way you dress, you look like a Nazi hooker. You have heard these two idiots. As proud as we are of our white race, of the black race, of the yellow race, doesn't it make you embarrassed that we have members of our race like this?
I have nothing to do with Nazis. If a man loves God, he's my brother.
No matter what the color.
No matter what the color.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, that's that conservative time, man.
What you have here today is nothing but a couple of
Oh,
losers.
shut his microphone.
What you have here tonight is a couple of losers with the onion head monkey who couldn't find
a place in American society so that nothing but rejects. They don't fit into American society. They probably can't even go home for Christmas. Did you go home for Christmas to eat dinner? You're nothing but losers, and they want to blame their problems on black people. They want to blame their problems on black people and Jews as opposed to looking at themselves and trying to fit into society. But they can't fit.
Let me ask you, I can't believe that these guys down here would follow you for a second. Do you believe what these guys are talking about? Wait a second. Give them a chance, man. Do these guys really represent what you feel? Oh, yeah. They represent what you feel? To a point. You don't believe in white supremacy, you believe in white separatism.
There's programs like affirmative action that discriminate whites. They discriminate whites, right? I believe that excellence should be the sole criteria for education or jobs. Look, if a black man is more qualified than me, he should get that job. Exactly. If he's red or what?
Your own skinheads don't agree with you. Huh? Your own skinheads don't even agree with you.
What?
The skinheads don't even agree with you.
What don't they agree with?
They believe that excellence should win. Black, white, yellow, brown, red. If you're the best, you should get it.
What's affirmative action for?
Affirmative action. Affirmative action. Don't tell me, you little...
That's good, Mort, because I don't do charity work.
We'll be back in just a second. Stand by. Don Lobsinger, you wanted to say something to start this segment. Say it.
Mort, I want the people of the United States to know that Nazis do not represent in any shape, form, or fashion the white people of the city of Detroit.
Yeah, you make white people look bad.
Let me go to Greg now. Let me come to Greg. Let me go to Greg. I'll ask you to talk, swinehund, when I want you. Greg, let me ask you a question. You've stated the white people in Detroit resent the black power structure. Now, what can Mayor Coleman Young do to improve race relations in this city? Let's listen. And let me tell you something. Give us a chance to understand, too, all right? Because as white men, we have always been in control. So it becomes a little difficult when all of a sudden we lose what we think is control to a group that we're not really sure of. Well, we haven't seen the operations. So naturally, we're nervous. So understand that from us as you had to understand things about us for years. Now, what can Mayor Coleman Young do to erase this problem?
What Mayor Coleman Young has been doing, and that is to work on his behalf as leader of the city of Detroit in making sure racism has no place either with blacks or with whites.
Does he really work on that? Give me a program that he's doing.
Well, first, I know you're not talking to me, but when you look around and you see that basically, even though 70% of Detroit is black people in Detroit, still the economy is controlled by whites.
Sure.
We got to understand that.
That's all right.
The political positions have not changed the economic conditions for black people in the city of Detroit.
But the political conditions, if you're under strong leadership, can give an impetus to improve.
And that's right. And that's why he established the Strategic Planning Commission, which met for over a year and came up with diagnosis for the problems that were being...
What was the diagnosis?
The diagnosis that racism was one of the underlying problems, a structural problem here in Detroit. And the only way we were going to address any problems was to first address that problem of racism.
Wait a second. You're telling me then that the mayor took 1 year...
Not the mayor.
A genius committee took 1 year to decide that racism was a problem?
It wasn't the mayor's committee. It was the bank. It was the white leadership. It was the corporation impaneled by the mayor. And they came with the conclusion with their own rich white selves that the main problem was racism. And the only way that they could eliminate the problem was to bring the jobs from Oakland County, from other cities that they've taken them out of Detroit, back to Detroit.
But when we start talking about
racist pattern that they have went on for the last 30 years.
When we talk about racism among blacks and whites, why can't we understand that each of us is trying to defend his own turf? And if we forget that it's our own turf and realize that it's everyone's turf, that's what I'm saying, pal. But you can't have Jesse Jackson, who you represented, on one hand saying that Mr. Bush was a racist because he pointed out that Dukakis' furlough program was a failure with Willie Horton.
And he was a racist for doing that.
He was a racist?
That's right.
Then Jesse was a racist? Jesse was a racist for calling it Town.
No, he wasn't a racist for calling it
He wasn't a racist for that?
No, he wasn't. He said that in the privacy of his own company, and he did not mean it in a derogatory manner. We're not going to go into that issue because that is not the context of what we're
It is an issue that's got to be
understood. But no, he was not racist for saying that.
But neither was George Bush racist for saying the furlough program didn't work. Here's an example.
It was the implication. It was the implication.
The implication is a guy raped a woman, all right, and stabbed the husband 23 times, tied him up, and made him watch it. Now, I don't give a damn if the guy's white, green, yellow, or purple.
Why did he show?
He's a total...
Why he showed the white?
Why did he show the white?
Anybody white doing that?
Why did he
You only showed a black person doing that.
There was no white who raped and stabbed.
Oh, there have been.
Yes, but not out of Dukakis' furlough program.
But we sure there's been some people that have come out.
I'm sure there have been too. We
that.
were talking about Dukakis. All I'm trying to
play on the racist emotions of white.
Do me a favor. Yes, sir. Of course it is. All I'm trying to show is we both go off in such far out directions.
No doubt about that.
That we don't get things straight.
There's no doubt about that.
And we have to listen to this kind of crap. When we go working out ourselves, I want our audience. Can you hear me? I want you guys to do me a favor. And this will just frost their ass. I want you to stand up. I don't care if it's a white guy, a black girl, a green person. Stand up, hold hands, hug, do whatever you want. Make these bums know what it's all about. Make these bums know what it's all about. We got it. We got it. You got it, baby. Now, to you, son. You, the audience, come up here and speak. Next.
We're 31 UHF. Again, thanks to the Flaming Caucasians, our house band. And a reminder, They're all right. A reminder. Speaking of Flaming Caucasians, quickly before I go to you, on November the 28th, all right, the day after this show airs, we have done a special. I have spent 3 hours interviewing James Earl Ray, the accused assassin and convicted assassin of Martin Luther King. Now, In that show, for the first time, we develop new information, new evidence, get an admission that's never before been made, and the name of the person who pulled the trigger. Watch that. Go ahead, pal.
I got a question for you guys. Why must you hate everyone that doesn't conform to your own values? Just either hate, fighting, violence, don't solve anything. You know, you only succeed in drawing this country apart.
Our fight is against the sellout traitors of our own race, the rich monopoly capitalists, the blacks who are side
Play the violence. You look at the progress we've made for. You look at the progress we've made for racial
May I suggest something? May I suggest we throw their ass out of here? Let's do that again. I didn't like it when it was done years ago, but if it brings peace between all of us, baby, that's the new one again. Peace for all of us. Go ahead, pal.
You know, they have their
Speak up.
They have their disgusting salute. Did you like that? Well, here's my salute. God bless America.
Go ahead, pal.
In handling the skinheads, such as we just did by throwing him out, we can handle that problem. But it's the people that behind the ivory walls and the corporate boardrooms that push their agenda secretly through America is the real racism problem that we have to face.
Screwed the middle class.
Exactly.
And the middle class of this country has been screwed for years.
And that's why black middle class can never go
Black
further.
middle class, white middle class has to join. Oh, we're dead, baby. It ain't gonna happen. Go ahead.
This is America, and I'm free to choose everything that I believe in. No one's gonna tell me what I believe is wrong. That's my right as an American, and that's the way I choose to believe. And I'd like to know why Roy Innocent isn't up on assault charges for attacking a young white youth. That's a racial attack.
Young white youth.
That's a racial attack.
It was no racial attack. When you call someone an Uncle Tom, he grabbed him right here. He didn't choke him. Roy Innocent's big enough. He didn't need to choke, pal. He could crack your face in half with one blow. Now you get out of here, too.
First of all, I want to say it's disgusting to have to be in a room with these pigs to begin with. Second of all, I've lived in Detroit almost all my life. I have white friends, black friends, Arab friends, Jewish friends, Spanish friends, and I see one race, and the human race!
Americans, pal.
Yeah!
Go.
They may be white, or they may be black, and I may be white, but we're all Americans. We're all Americans. Most importantly,
in an effort to protect these young, poor, misguided slime, please leave them out and let them get out of here. We don't need them.
We're human.
We don't need them. We don't need them. Now, sir, you.
I would like to say to all of us, if we could come together on one common ground and grow like little flowers, all different colors. You know, it's not how tall we get, it's how we grow.
And how beautiful we are in that vase which is called America, right?
Right.
The vase that holds the flowers of all the different colors is still the USA.
Yep.
Let's all do it together, baby. And let's come back to this audience in just a minute.
Yeah.
We're shooting.
First to you, ma'am.
I am so sick and tired of saying this is the land of the free. This is not the land of the free because black and white are too much against each other, and it is not no good. We have to live together and work together. We will not get nowhere as long as we are against each other.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, all right. Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers fought long and hard and killed themselves to fight to rid Nazism in Europe. They come over here and they fill this garbage philosophies with little young kids and they destroy millions of lives. That's baloney. That's baloney.
And they create more racism.
You're damn right.
Go ahead, man. Let me hear this lady. Let me hear this lady.
God said for everyone to love thy neighbor. You can't fight each other. You got to pull together. You got to have unity. Let's stick together.
And stick together is right. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you something in just a minute because you got to be commended in just a second. Yes, ma'am. What does that say? Holistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one thing I want to say. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm considered a minority too. You know, but I like getting a job not to fulfill minority requirements. I want to get there because I'm intelligent, just like other Americans are.
Yeah, and that's really, you see, what we are doing when we say that, oh, you're black, you're Hispanic, therefore I'm going to give you a break. What we are saying as whites is, you're dumb. You're not as smart as me. And that's crap. And that's another way of creating more racism. The black race, the yellow race, the brown race, the white race, the red race, we're Americans. We're equally smart. Go ahead.
I'm not so much worried about the racism that happens on the grassroots level. A lot of these everyday John Q citizens are willing to work together. But where it really hurts me is when it gets up into the decision-making, the policy-making process of the government level.
But that's what's happened to the entire middle class of America.
Yeah,
sir.
but
they have never had access. They have never sat on the committees. Neither have the blacks, neither have the Hispanics, but neither has middle-class white America. That's why we're the ones who have to get together, unite, and tell the government, we're the government, they're nothing, man.
But while we're waiting to unite, the impact is being felt mostly in every major urban area where the blacks are. I mean, we're consistently, systematically saturated with drugs.
Yes, sir, it is. And one of the things we have to do,
of the educational
one of the things we have to do, sir, you're not wrong, but one of the things we have to do, white or black, is stop making excuses for our failures, lift ourselves up, and move ahead. Because you can do it and I can do it.
I think the first place we move to get rid of the drugs.
Mort, a lot of people think it's blacks against whites. It's not. It's Americans against Nazis. As long as there's Nazis out there.
I thought we got rid of them in 45, pal. But if we haven't, let's get rid of them legally now. Let's get rid of them legally. Let's support them, get them out. I don't give a damn what the Constitution says. There's no room for them. And let me tell you, you guys have demonstrated you are the best audience I have ever seen in America. I love every one of you. You're the best. Whatever you do, kick ass. Good night, Dad. Good night. Oh, good night. Good night.